Movement lesson. When is it too much? When is it not enough? Okay, that's a trick question. If you're looking at or thinking that movement lesson is traditional or alternative therapy, your answer is going to be incorrect. If you're looking at movement lesson as the only modality out there that works with development as a whole, then your answer is going to be different. So to answer it from my perspective or from movement lessons perspective, same thing. First of all, everything here that I promote, teach has to do with functional movement. What is functional movement? When a baby is developing, when your child is developing, when you're going through those first milestones, you need to have it done as functional movement. Functional movement is a movement that includes weight transfer, transitional movement, and rotational responses in opposition to gravity, right? To create a function. When this movement is correct, it goes through all major minor organs of the body. What does that mean? So even if I'm just feeding now you and I can eat with the queen and eat like this. That's not a functional movement. Yes, I'm feeding my face, but when I'm talking about development and I've got a pubic bone straight and all of this sort of thing to eat, this is a functional movement. I'm using everything I told you. I've got weight transfer, I've got transitional movements, right? I'm able to use rotational responses. All of that's happening for me to eat. That same movement, I can dress myself, I can do all of that. I have midline crossing. There is so much that's going on because it is a functional movement. Now me, I put my arm out like this. Yeah, I could do it. It's not functional. I can't feed my face. I can't comb my hair. I can't do anything. So when a child is even in position, which we say ATNR and hyper response, no, people don't know what they're talking about. When they're in a position to not fall. I don't care if we're talking about your great Aunt Sally, you know what I mean? Or you're talking about your 2-year-old. If they're in a position where they're protecting themselves, and I'm not talking protection like not intelligence. If there's a tiger in the room or you're really going to fall down, protect yourself. Don't be like, oh, I don't want to expose myself to sensory integration disorder. I'm just going to go fall. Yeah, no, it doesn't work that way. So when you're working with those kind of things that are going on, you need to know what a milestone is. And so that's what I teach you here. You need to know how your child's visual response is. Can they get into position for vision? Their vision might be fine, but they don't have functional vision, right? And they certainly don't have functional vision if they don't have functional milestones happening, right? Because they're one and the same. Your vision, spatial organization, all that connect to all your milestones. If your baby is not coming to sitting through their back, they're not creating visual arcs. It's impossible, right? There's a movement vocabulary that goes on. So I totally disagree with people when they're saying your child needs a break. So I used to be an ABM practitioner, right? And that was my first, one of my first big trainings. I've done a lot of trainings, right? And that was the whole thing. No more than a week and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, I've got people coming in from India begging me, like, I'm not flying, paying all this money for a week. And finally I was like, it's your money. Like, I'll take it. And then that's also too when I was leaving, because I did my training 0709. Now again, 0709, lots changed. People ask me questions now about it. I'm like, that wasn't in my training. I don't know what you're talking about. So because a lot of the approaches are still changing there. So when people were coming over, and I left in 011. So when people were coming over, I finally was like, if you want to give me your money, I'll keep you for a month. I don't care. And then it's like, for some kiddos, or for a lot of kiddos, again, this longer development, like stuff's happening. But also too, the reason I was different even from back then, because we weren't taught touch, but my touch naturally had rotation. That's why I was already different than even my classmates and stuff. And whatever, I'm not going into the whole thing of that, but because that's a long time ago. But I mean, I've done RMT, I've done CST, I've done lots of different trainings besides, again, when I see, I don't know what these people are talking about, I'm just going to do what I'm doing and start teaching it. Because when you're working with these things, you get functional movement. I don't care if you're an astronaut trying to shoot into outer space, you need these skills. And so when you're looking at that, but when you're approaching a child therapeutically, with the non-functional approach, I wouldn't be doing it that often. That's why like vibrating plates, oh no, 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 no. And to stick a kid on top of a ball, on top of a board, and then people ding me and go, look at the balance on this child. You guys, you couldn't do it. If I put you, look, the best way to look at certain therapies, if I put you through it, could you do it? And if your answer is no, what the heck you're doing it with your child for? Or would you want to do it? Well, they're crying. I don't want to cry. Well, why are you doing that for? So look at it that way. There's an old saying, you don't know what the person's going through and you've gone like a mile in their shoes. I really think we need to look at it that with most therapies. Like, I still haven't responded right now to the kinesio tape. Are you out of your mind? You know what I mean? Why do you think, I might tape a tree to stay in position. We're not bonsai plants. I don't understand that. Now, if I use kinesio tape and I used it, let's say like I was a pitcher and really hurt my wrist, or I needed that extra, but I'm getting paid $2 million a game. I better have that wrist. I might practice a bit of taping, but my taping would have cuts in it. So it would allow, again, for that weight transfer, transitional movements and so forth. But if you think that and I say brand new baby, so like let's say under 5 is a brand new baby for me, because my 20-year-old's still a baby, my baby. No, you can't prevent a movement to create a movement. If you think that static pose, if I tape up this child enough that they're going to sit like this, you might have a visual representation of, oh, look at my child sitting up. They can't do anything else. So the second I don't know if you've ever put on Spanx, right? You put on Spanx and you're sitting there and you're like at that wedding and everything. Then you take that stuff off, Baymax. You're just like, boom. You almost get more low tone. It's the same principles. When you put myself or anybody else in a non-functional movement, the brain does not organize around it. And the brain is either organizing for progression or it's organizing for regression. And what people don't understand with a lot of modalities, the way that the approach is, especially on certain kiddos, especially when they don't have the right vision and so forth, you're actually progressing a regression. And we already have regression. That's why we're here. You know what I mean? And I know, guys, we're going through the reason. I'm a mom first. Dee's watching, right? Dee knows me for forever, from way back when. And I'll always talk to you from my mom brain versus my movement lesson brain, and certainly from the Michelle Turner brain, because I don't even say like, Michelle Turner. But when you're looking at that, when Dee and I both went through it with many things, the stuff that our children went through, and that I wasted my time on, wasted my child's time on. So time is one commodity we can't buy. And so when I see a child that's not going into development, I got a problem, and I'm going to soapbox. So, but that people come to me with other approaches and expect me to be like, oh yeah, do it. I have to say it. You just got to be nuts. I don't care how experienced that person is, right? Again, if you're thinking about doing something radical with your child, and sort of taping up a child to me is, do it to yourself, feel it. And one of the things is too, you have to realize, and especially when we have children with autism, and I say that because Dee and I have that, our kids don't have self-soothing. Self-soothing means like, oh, I got something in my eye. Self-soothing is, our kids do this, or they'll sit there like this, and you're sitting there like, how do they see? Because, and then they'll do this or this, and then they start pulling their hair out because they can't just do these fine motor skills. Give myself a hair drop here. They can't scratch their back. I had a 7-year-old who was coming to me and he was going into crawling, and they're like, we don't know what's going on. He always loves coming here, but right now I don't know what's going on. He does like coming here. Well, he had a tag in his shirt, and he literally is trying to get away from the tag because he can't just be like, this thing. So when you're doing things to your kids that are maybe not, but also too, you have to look at the practitioner. if your practitioner is saying that I don't feel comfortable doing something, and it might be something repetitive or whatever they feel, maybe they're not feeling it or whatever, you have to respect that as well. Just because you want to continue, it might not be with that person at that time. But again, Casey's now watching, this was for her, but it really is for everybody. If it is a functional movement, right? Well, we do functional movements all day long. That's how we survive. If we start becoming in pain, we're now going into a regressive, non-functional movement. If we're something chronic, if we're sick and so forth, these things take us in. We sprain something, we do something. These approach, our body got hurt, so we can't have it. That's more what adults go through. But for our munchkins, and when I say this all the time, and I've said it to you before, Casey, when they're about to do something, I don't want that frustration to come in. I want the movement. The first movements need to be successful. After that, then we can start. Remember, we only test when we know the answer. We don't test our kids, right? And so don't test them too with also a lapse in time to see if they're going to get it. And so I hope that answers your questions, and you can rewatch it now when I go off, but again, if it's a functional movement and so forth, then your child, you need to get out of bed in the morning. You need to feed your face. You need to, go learn how to go toileting. You need to start learning those skills, those social skills. And so it's not about learning bad habits. It's about when the system goes from a functional movement into a deviation or a prevention of a movement. And it's a fine line with the munchkins. And you already have, in your case, genetics that you're going with. I wouldn't play that ball. I would be on it and so forth. And if that means finding somebody else, that's fine. Or if that means, again, that you're taking on more of this, and that's why I do the courses so of the parental supplementation to all of this. Thanks. I hope that helped.